Good morning, guys. Can you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the previous class, we have discussed about methods. What is a method? Why do we need method? What is return type? What is parameter? All those things we have seen. Now we will see static. From here onwards, we should concentrate more. Next, very important concept is static. What is static? Static is a keyword. Static is a keyword in Java. Static is a keyword in Java. What is the general meaning of static? It says that it doesn't change. Static. Now we can able to use static for declaring variables, for declaring methods, and in the advanced concept, even we can able to declare class by using static. Now carefully observe the steps. In all the previous programs, in all the previous programs, we were declaring variables inside the main method. We were declaring a variable inside the main method. So that is what we are calling local variables. Local to main method. In fact, you can able to declare any variable inside any method. Those variables are called local to that respective methods. In whichever the method you are going to declare the variable, that becomes local to that method. That variable becomes local to that method. But here what I have done, outside the main method, outside the main method, inside the class, outside the main method, but inside the class. Class A, opening curly brace, closing curly brace. Now this becomes a member of class A. Now this static int type becomes the member of class A, one of the member of class A. As of now, we have two members, static int type, then main method. These two are the members of class A. We can able to declare any number of static variables. How you are going to declare a static variable? That is by using static keyword. Static data type, variable name. Now, if you are declaring a variable outside the main method, If you are declaring a variable outside the main method, that we are going to refer it as field. This particular this particular variable declaration, this particular variable declaration, we are going to refer it to as field. Now, whatever the variable we have declared outside the main method, inside a class, that type of variable, we are going to call it as global variable. Global variable, you can able to refer it to as global variable. Static int I is the global variable of class A. Now, what is the execution procedure if there is a static member? What is the execution procedure if there is a static member? Carefully observe. This variable got declared by using static. This main method also got declared with a static. Now, what is the execution procedure of static members in class? Very important procedures. The very first thing what happens whenever you type Java space A, whenever you are trying to execute this program, whenever you are trying to execute this program, what happens? This class A is going to load to the memory. In order to be executed, this class A is going to load to the memory. While this class A is loading, all the static members gets loaded to the memory. First, what happens? Class A is going to load to the memory. While class A is loading, along with the class A, all the static members gets loaded to the memory. That is the first procedure. Internally, what happens? Now, then what happens? Whenever the static members are loading, the static members in case of static variable, whenever the static members are loading, if there is a static variable, if there is a static variable, these static variables are going to load with their default values. Static members, static variables. Static variables are going to get default values. Default values. In case of int, it is going to get 0. Case of double, 0.0. In case of string, null. In case of boolean, it is false. Whenever class A is loading, all the static members gets loaded to the memory. While loading, in case of static variables, static variables are going to load with their default values according to their default values. Now, after all the static members are loaded, it's time to execute from top to bottom. It is going to execute from top to bottom. How it is going to execute? First, it is going to check whether static int type got loaded. Yes, it is loaded with the default value 0. Fine. And it got executed. Then comes to the next static member. It is only checking. It is only checking whether it's supposed to return anything or not. Okay, it doesn't have to return anything because of void. So everything is proper here. Whenever class A is loading, all the static members gets loaded to the memory. In case of static variables, it is going to load with their default values. That is the first step. Second step, it is going to execute from top to bottom. All the static members gets executed from top to bottom. This is the first member. This got loaded with the 0 and it is going to initialize with the 0 and it is going to execute. Fine. And it is just checking whether this one is proper or not. That means this method is going to supposed to return or anything like that. No, it doesn't have to return anything because it is void. Checking out over. All the static members loaded, initialized, then executed. Fine. After all these procedures, then only main method executes. In the interview, they might ask, is there any possibility of executing anything before the main method? In the interview, they might ask, is there any possibility of executing anything before the main method? Yes, it is possible. All the static members are going to execute before the main method only. All the static members are going to execute before executing the main method. Now, how many times static members are loaded to the memory? Only one time. All the static members gets loaded to the memory while class is loading. All the static members gets loaded to the memory only once when the class is loading to the memory. And how many times it is going to execute? Only one time. All the static members are going to initialize and execute from top to bottom only once. Keep these points in mind. Now, what is the output you will get? While static int I is loading to the memory, it is going to load with the default value 0. Then while initializing and executing, it is going to initialize and execute with the default value 0 only. Now all the static members loaded, initialized, executed from top to bottom. Now it's time to execute the main method. Coming to the main method, current value of I is 0. Zero. In the class B, totally we have 4 static members. In the class B, totally we have 4 static members. What is the procedure? Whenever class B is loading to the memory, whenever class B is loading to the memory, all these static members are going to load to the memory. In case of static variables, they are going to load with their default values. Static int type 0, static double J 0.0, static boolean k, it is false. All the static members gets loaded to the memory. Then it's time to initialize and execute from top to bottom. Static int type got initialized and executed with the default value 0. Static double J got initialized and executed with the default value 0.0. Then static boolean k got initialized and executed with the default value false. All the static members got loaded, initialized, executed. Then it's time to execute the main method. Now it's time to execute the main method. What is the current value of I? 0. J is 0.0. K is false. Compile and execute. Come to the C dot. We have seen the default values, but while declaring static variable, you can also initialize with the explicit value. That also possible. You can also supply explicit values. Manually, you can able to supply the value. That is also possible. Now, in this case, what happens? Whenever class C is loading to the memory, all the static members gets loaded to the memory. In case of static variables, static int I is going to load with the default value 0. Static int j also is going to load with the default value 0 only. Whenever it is going to load to the memory, static int I is going to load with the default value 0. Static int j also is going to load with the default value 0. Loading got completed. Loading is over. Now it's time to execute from top to bottom. Now it's time to execute all the static members from top to bottom. Initialization and execution. Initialization and execution of all the static members from top to bottom. Static int I got initialized and executing. Static int I initializing and executing with the default value 0 only. Now static int j is going to initialize with the explicit value 10. Earlier, when the class C is loaded to the memory, it got loaded with the 0. This field, that is why we are going to refer it to as field. All the static variable fields are going to load initially with their default values. Now it is going to consider as a field whenever class is loading. Whenever class is loading, all these static variables are going to load with their default values. These fields are going to load with their default values. Then whenever we are going to initialize and execute from top to bottom. Now, as of now, it has loaded with the default value 0. Simply it is going to initialize and execute with the default value 0 only. But in this case, we have supplied explicit value. For this, it is going to initialize and execute with the explicit value, that is 10. Now J value will be 10, not 0. While loading it is 0, but while executing it is 10. All the static members got loaded, initialized and executed. Now it's time to execute the main method. Now the control comes to the main method. Current I value it is 0. Current J value it is 10. Zero and 10. Come to the data Java. Observe this program. Whenever class D is loading, static int I and static int j, these fields are going to load with their default values 0. That we know. Then control is going to execute main method. In the main method, current I value that is 0, current j value is 0. After that, we are going to reinitialize I value. We are going to reinitialize j value. Earlier I was 0, now it is 10. Earlier j was 0, now it is 20. So we get 0, 0, 10, 20. 0, 0, 10, 20. Class D. Come to the e.java. In a single line, by using comma as a separator, we can able to declare and initialize any number of static variables. Possible? in a single line by using comma as a separator. We can able to declare and initialize any number of variables, but those variables must be of the same type. We cannot able to declare different types. Same procedure whenever class E is loaded to the memory. All these three variables I, J, K are going to load with their default values, that is 0. It's time to execute from top to bottom by initializing and executing. All these three variables are going to initialize and execute with the default value 0 only. Now come to the main method. Current I, J and K value are going to be printed. All are zeros. You will get 3 zeros. 3 zeros. Come to the next. Observe this one. Static int type, just a declaration. Static int J, declaration as well as initialization with the value 10. K, just a declaration. Yeah, initialization. Sorry, declaration and initialization. I is 0, default value. J is 10. K is default value 0. M is 20. Come to the next. In the class G, we have three static members. Static int type, static double J comma M and K. Then main method. I will be executing with the default value 0. J also with the default value 0.0. K will be 0.0. But for M, we are explicitly supplying the value 30.9. I is 0, J is 0.0, M is 30.9, K is 0.0. Now observe carefully. Static in type, it is going to load with the default value 0 and executes with the default value 0. Fine. There are no other static variables, but we do have a static method. Other than main method, we do have one static method. Unless until you call this method, it is not going to execute. Keep that in mind. Unless until you call this method, it won't execute. In case of main method, for this, JVM is going to give a call. Java virtual machine is going to give a call to main method. That's why main method is going to execute. Now, all the static members got loaded, initialized, executed from top to bottom. Now it's time to execute the main method. Come to the main method, main colon space, current I value that is 0. Then I got initializing with 10. I got initializing. I is initializing to 10. Then we are calling the test method. Then test method is going to invoke. Then test method is going to execute. From test, current I value that is 10. Here we have modified I to 10. Then only we are calling test method. So that is why current I value is 10. So what is the output? Main 0, main colon 0 from test colon 10. Come to the next. Send the output, analyze and send the output everybody. See, remaining people, please send the output. Only Lavanya and Farhan has sent the output and it is proper. See, remaining people, please send output. Sarah, then Chetan. Initially, x is going to load with the default value 0. Then come to the main method. Main 1, current x value 0. X got initialized into 20 from 0 to 20. Now we are calling the test method. One more thing, keep in mind. Whenever you are calling static methods, whenever you are calling static methods, simply you can able to call by using their name. Okay, keep that in mind. Whenever you are calling static methods, you can able to call static methods by using their name directly. No need of any reference. We will come to know what is reference. Directly you can able to call. We are making a call to the test method. Then from test, current x value that is 20. Current x value that is 20. Once again, x is modifying to 10. From 20 to 10. All these changes are all these changes are affecting to the global variable or static variable or static member X. All these changes are affecting the global variable or static variable X. Now, X got initialized to 10. Fine. Come to the main method to execute remaining statement of the main method. Main to X value is 10. So you will get main one 0 from test 20, main to 10. Send output. Please send output everybody. See what you can do is you can able to write it in a note, write it in a notepad. That means you can able to write it in a sheet paper. Then you can able to take the photo and you can send it in the group. That also acceptable. Otherwise, you can able to type it and send in the chat box. Anything, just send it. Okay. Chetan Lavanya Farhan send the output. Very simple. But what you should observe carefully as a programmer internally how it happens. What happens? Whenever static int x is loading, it is going to load with the default value 0 only. The static int x field is going to load with the default value 0 only. Whenever it is executing from top to bottom, whenever it is initializing and executing from top to bottom, the explicit value 0 is going to initialize. Then it will be executing. Fine. Now it is going to come to the main method. Test 1. Test 1. Current value 0. X is equal to 1. X got initialized to 1. Come to the main method. Main 1. Current X value 1. Calling test 2. Test 2 colon current X value is 1. X got initializing to 2. Come to the main method. Main 2. Current X value is 2. Simple. Next. We know very well what is a local variable. In this program, int type and double line are the local variables of main method. And one more thing, keep in mind, in case of local variables won't be having default values. For local variables, there is no default value. Explicitly, we must supply a value for a local variable. Keep that in mind. For local variables, there won't be default values. There won't be automatic values. For static variables only, default values will be there. Fine. We can able to compile and we can able to run this. Simply will get done as the message. Come to the next. Static intent 10. I is going to initialize with the 10. Then what about see, come to the previous program. Observe carefully. Observe very carefully whether this program is going to compile successfully or not. What I said, in case of local variables, we don't hit default values, so that is fine. There is another very important thing is there. This program won't compile this program won't compile, you will get error. So what is the issue here? What is the issue? Anybody? What is the issue? We have two variables in the main method with the same name. Observe carefully. Two variables, even though the data type is different. even though the data type is different, even though the data type is different, variable names are same, identifiers are same. In the same method, you cannot able to declare more than one variable with the same name, even though the data type is different. Compile l.java, variable I got already defined. Cannot able to once again define that I. You will get error. Likewise, come to the M. Now, what is this field called? What is this context? Opening and closing curly brace. It is the class level, or you can able to say class context. Here, we are trying to declare and initialize two variables, two static variables with the same name, even though the types are different. Here it is int, second static variable it is boolean. First is int, second is boolean. Even though data types are different, variable names cannot be same. It must be different. See, because the same context, class M context. In the body of class M, you cannot able to declare more than two variables with the same name. Not possible. Likewise, in the method also. In any block, in any block, in any block, you cannot able to declare more than one variable with the same name, even though the data type is different. Even though the data type is different, you cannot able to declare more than one variable with the same name. Not possible. For this also you will get error. Variable I got already defined in class M. Once again, you cannot observe this one. Carefully observe. Whenever class n is loading, I is going to load with the default value 0. Fine, we know that. Then, when initializing and executing from top to bottom, I got initializing with the 10, then got executed. Fine. Now it's time to execute the main method. In the main method, we have one more variable. In the main method, we have one more variable that is same as static variable. But carefully observe, this static variable belongs to class level n. Now this variable int I is equal to 20. This is the local variable of main method. No issues. This variable belongs to class N and this variable belongs to main method. Now, if you are trying to access simply I, okay, if you are just saying I, which value will get? Most of the people might be thinking that we get the static variable value. It's not correct. You are going to get the value of local variable, that is 20. 20 you will get. Why? If the global and local variables are with the same name, if the global and local variables are with the same name, if you are trying to use, if you are trying to access I, local variable will get the more preference. Local variable is going to get the more preference. That is why you will get 20, not 10. But if you want to access the global one, use it or access it along with the class name. Here in this case, class name is n dot I. If you say n dot I, it is going to refer to global variable, not the local variable. Whenever you are whenever you are accessing global variable, try to access with class name, because if you have the local variable which is the same name as global variable, what happens if you are simply referring the variable name, it is going to consider the local one, not the global one. See what is the difference. If you are removing this, what happens? There is no local variable in the main method. See, I have removed int. Okay. Now what happens? It is going to refer to what? The global one. While loading, it is loaded with the 0. While initializing, it is loaded, so it is initialized and executed with the 10. Come to the main method. Once again, I will be initializing to 20. Now you will get what? 20. Simply if you are saying I, you will get 20. N dot I, both are now referring to global one only. If you simply say I, it refers to global one only. If you say n dot I, it is also going to refer to global one only. Because there is no local variable inside the main method as of now. Observe carefully. Both you will get what? 20. Because for the global one only, we have modified. Okay. Earlier it was 10. Now, while executing main method, the same I got initialized to 20. That is what we are getting. But if you say int I, now the changes will be there. Int I is the local variable of main method. If you simply say I, now what happens? Naming collision is there. Okay. Because global also I, local also I. If that is the case, local one will be given the more preference. local variable is going to get the more preference. So that is why if you simply say I, you will get 20. But if you want to access the global one only, use it along with the class name. Class name is n dot I. If you say like this, you're going to refer to global one. So we'll get 10. So 20, 10. 20, 10. Come to the next. Static in time. While it is loading with the zero, come to the main method. Would are type. That is going to refer to what? Global variable of O class. Would are type. You will get zero. We are initializing I. Would are type to 10. You will get 10. Whenever you are accessing the global variable, try to access with along with the class reference. Try to access it along with the class name. Zero 10. Send me the output, everybody. Everybody has to send the output.
Sir, hello.
Yeah, please tell me.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Hmm.
If we are initializing first println while I is 0. Next, we are in re-initializing it as 10. After I will be 10. If we are getting a global value, it will be 0 or 10, sir.
See, what did
Means
I
p
say?
dot I.
Yeah.
Sir, p dot I.
See, when executing this statement, is there any local variable present in the main method?
No, sir.
No. If that is the case, it is going to refer to global one only.
Yes, sir.
0. Now local variable comes. Int I is equal to 10. Now if you simply say I, what I said,
It will 10. It will be 10, sir.
it is going to
Means it
refer
will
to
refer
for local variable
local. Yes, sir.
10. Then to access global one, if you have global and local with the same name, if you want to access global one, what you should do?
Naming with the class.
You should access that along with the class name.
Class name.
P dot I. Now you will get 0. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then
So, okay.
simply if I say I is equal to 20, you are reinitializing the local one only. Okay. Local. So if you simply say I, what you will get? 20. 20. If you are saying P dot I, if you are saying P dot I, what happens? You will
It
get,
will
what you will
0.
get? 0. Now observe carefully what I'll do. P dot I is 40. Now what is the output? Last two output. What is I
Last to
value?
40 and 40, sir.
This one
No,
will
sir.
be 40
It
now.
will be 20. Normal variable. It will be
Local
20 and
variable. Local
yeah,
variable
local
20.
20
Then global will
and
initialize it to 40.
40.
What is the output? You have only three SOPs. How you will get four values?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As of now, there is no local variable, so you will get global one, that is 10. Now comes the local variable double I is equal to 2.9. Immediately after, we are going to reinitialize the same I to 40.0. Now, if you are saying I, it is going to refer to local one only. So we'll get 40.0. But if you want to access the global one, use it along with the class reference q dot I. You will get 10. See this program carefully observe. Static int I, whenever it is loading with the zero only. Static int j, whenever it is loading with the zero only. Loading process is over. Now it has to initialize and execute from top to bottom. I is going to initialize with 10 and got executed. Fine. J is going to initialize with the value of I, that is 10. So carefully observe both I and j value, you are going to get 10. But what about this one? Whenever I is loading with the zero. Whenever j is loading with the zero. Then, when initializing and executing, I is going to initialize and executes with zero. J will be initializing and executing with the I value, that is zero. So what you will get? Both is zero. Both you are going to get zero. But come to the next. What happens in this case? Send with output. Why Sarah? All are zeros. It's not correct. Mohan, written. Static int I10, static int J20. Now k is equal to I plus j. Current live value 10, current j value 20. So 10 plus 20, 30 is going to store with the k. See, while initializing and executing, I is going to initialize and execute with the 10. J will be initializing with executing 20. So k is equal to 10 plus 20, 30. 30 is the value of k. I is 10, j is 20, k is 30. So observe this program very carefully. Whenever loading I is 0, whenever loading j 0, fine. Whenever loading I it is 0, whenever loading j is 0. Whenever class u is loading, I and j, these are the fields of class u. These fields are going to load with their default value 0. But what happens while executing from top to bottom? While executing from top to bottom, carefully observe. While executing from top to bottom, I is equal to j. We are supplying j to the I. As of now, compiler doesn't know about j. That means While class U is loading, what it knows, in the class U, we have feeds, two static feeds. For this default values zeros are loaded. For this default values are loaded. But while executing from top to bottom, while initializing and executing, it cannot able to recognize what is J. Exactly, it doesn't know there is a variable called J, because after execution of this statement only we are declaring J. At this point of time, compiler doesn't know there is a variable called J. J we are declaring after execution of this statement. Initially only we are supplying J to the I. So this kind of syntax, for this kind of syntax, you will get error. For this kind of statement, you will get error called illegal forward reference error. Illegal forward reference. That means J got declared in the next line. But I'm trying to access J before declaration itself. These kind of statements, we are going to call it as forward reference. Now, forward reference is illegal. Forward reference is illegal in Java. So you will get illegal forward reference error. Illegal forward reference. Before declaring, we are using it. Not possible. Illegal forward reference error. Come to the next. At line number 5, you are going to get illegal forward reference error. Variable n, I'm going to declare in the line number 6, but I'm going to use it in the line number 5 itself. You will get illegal forward reference error. At line number 5, you are going to get illegal forward reference error. Observe this program very carefully. Then tell me how. Whenever I is loading 0, whenever j is loading 0, while executing, while executing, while initializing and executing from top to bottom, I got initializing and executing with the 10. J will be initializing with the return value of test method. Test must be returning one int value. It is going to return int value, return 20. That int value it is going to return. That returned int value we are going to supply to j. Static int test. While supplying the value for j, it is going to execute the test method. See here we can able to give any number of statements. Those statements will be executing. After that, it is going to return 20. That returned 20 available with the test method. That 20 we are going to supply to j. Come to the main method. Current type value is 10, j value is 20. Tell me the output. Mohan wrong. Chetan sent properly. See, very simple. Sarah, correct. In the class X, we have three static members: static in test 1, static in type, static in test 2. Main method is also static. So how many members we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 members we have. 4 members in the class X. Now what happens? All the static members gets loaded to the memory. In this case, I will be loading 0. While executing, what happens? The static int I is equal to test1 method. Test1 method happens here. Test1. It is going to return 1. We are calling test2. It is going to return 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 is going to be supplied to I. Now come to the main method, printing I value, that is 3. Simply you will get 3. What is the result of this program? Yes, both I and j value will get 10. Whenever I is loading 0, j is loading 0. Whenever executing, I got initialized to 10. Now calling j, sorry, now we are initializing j. While initializing, we are calling test method. Test method is called current value of I is going to return, that is 10. So I and j both will be 10. What about this one? Tell me the output for this. Observe carefully. Carefully observe. Lavan is correct. 0 on 10. I is equal to test. Whenever I is loading 0, j is 0. Whenever I loading 0, whenever j loading 0. Calling test method. Now, current j value is 0. Return j. Return j. Here, I'm not saying like this. If I say like this, I'll get error. Okay. I is equal to j. If I say like this, I'll get error. Carefully observe. Illegal forward reference. Instead of that, calling test method. Now in the test method, what happens? See, it is only returning a field value. Okay. It is only returning field value. Currently, j field value. This field value is 0. That will be available with test. That only we are sending to I. Now, now we are going to declare j is equal to 10. Supplying 10. Come to the main method. I value 0, j value 10. Here we observe 0 and 10. Compile, can run. Static int I is equal to test. What happens? Test method is going to call. Test method is going to execute from test. Then it is going to return 10. That returned value 10 is going to be supplied to I. Coming to the main method, main begin current I value 10, main end. From test, main begin 10, then main end. Observe this one. Syntactically proper, no issues at all. Class Z2, opening and closing curly brace. Syntactically proper, compiler is going to generate dot class file. Compiler is going to generate dot class file for Z2. No issues. But you cannot run because there is no main method. You cannot run because there is no main method. Come to the next. Z3. Syntactically everything is proper. Okay. Syntactically everything is proper, but you cannot run. Okay. Without main method, you cannot able to run. But in the previous version of JDKs, that is from JDK before JDK 1.5, you can able to run without main method. But after JDK 1.5, see before JDK 1.5, before or in JDK 1.5, you might execute without main method. But after JDK 1.5, it's not possible. See, observe how to run, compare and run was in different versions of JDK. How's the syntax? Java C, after that, JDK version. Version 1.5. source. Which one we are trying to execute? Z3. Now run Java source 1.5 Z3. So for this Java currently the installed JVM version, that is 1.8. See, we can able to compile by using different versions. Okay. So compilation is possible, but while running, while running, observe carefully. Clearing the screen. I'm going to compile this program by using 1.5 version. To compile in a different version, go for -source 1.5. Currently installed is 1.8, but I'm trying the feature of 1.5 previous version. Compile. It has got compiled now. It has got compiled with 1.5. Now I can able to directly run directly by using -cp z3. Z3, not Z, Z3. See here, you're going to get error. But let's compile this by using 1.4. Z3. Fine. I'm going to execute Z3. See, we must use the prior version, okay, 1.5. There it is possible that we can able to execute without the main method. That I'll show you tomorrow. That I'll show you. There is a specific syntax for that. But after JDK 1.5, you must include the main method in order to execute. Without main method, it won't execute. Syntactically proper, but you cannot able to run this program because there is no main method. Because there is no main method. So in the standard, what we are going to learn here, 1.8 standard JDK version, without a main method, we cannot able to run the program. Keep that in mind. So today's topic static. In this, do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts, please ask me. We have Z4 and Z5. Let us check. What is the output for this? Tell me the output. Quick. Send me the output. What do you get? Output. Test 1. Test 1 is called from test 1. Then 10 is going to assign it with I. I value now 10. Now what happens? Once again, I'm calling the test 1 method within the SOP. So what happens? From test 1 will be printed. Then return 10. That return 10 will be printed here. So what you will get? 10. After that, first what is the output you will get? Please tell me. Observe this program. What is the output you will get? Observe carefully and tell me. I is equal to test 1. Test 1 is called from test 1, then returning 10. First, from test 1 will be printed, then returning 10. Now I value is 10, printing I value 10. Then once again we are calling the test 1. Once again from test 1 will be printed, returning 10. That return value 10 also printed here. So from test 1, 10. From test 1, 10. From test 1, 10. From test 1, 10. Come to the next. See, carefully observe this one. Last program. In the interview, they might ask, is there any possibility of executing main method without it is automatically gets executed? Is there any possibility of executing main method before it is going to execute automatically by the JVM? Yes, there is a possibility. You can able to call the main method by supplying null as the argument. Why I am supplying null as the argument? Because string array can take null as the argument. String array. Okay, for the string, we can able to supply null as the argument. Possible. For the string, we can able to supply null as the argument. See, observe carefully what happens. First, we are calling test 1. From test 1, we are calling main method by supplying null. From main, then current I value what? What is the current I value? 0, 0. Current I value 0. Carefully observe. Current I value 0. Then what happens? Return 10. Return 10. Test 1 is going to contain 10. That 10 we are supplying to I. Everything is over. Now come to the main method. All the static members loaded, initialized, and executed. Now come to the main method. From main, now current I value, you will get 10. See what is the output? you will get. First from test 1, from main 0, then only from main, then 10. Okay guys, practice all these programs. We'll continue tomorrow. If you have any doubts, please ask me. Otherwise,
Is they are in GitHub, sir?
what?
Is this program are in GitHub, sir?
Yes, yes. All these programs will be available in the GitHub. Now I'm updating that. I'll update. And what about the assignment? How many of you have submitted the assignment? How many of you have sent the assignment?
We'll submit it by today, sir.
If you don't write the assignment, please don't attend the class. Fine. You can able to find it in the repository. I'll see how many of you are going to send the assignment. Okay. Practice all these things, and I'm going to send the assignment for static also today. So let me check. Yeah, later I'm going to send. Okay, static assignment. Please complete that also and send. Please practice, guys. Have a good day.